Well, hello everyone, Lot Garden Bird Lady here, coming to you guys with a not so quick video. And in this video here, first off, before we do anything, before we get into anything else, I want to apologize for the sound quality of this video. I hope that the sound quality is okay. There is something wrong with the microphone port on my camera, and it won't take my wireless microphone, it won't take my wired lapel microphone, and the only microphone that it will pick up is my Rode mic. And my Rode mic is a more powerful mic, and it just picks up everything, all the background noise, and not only just hones in on my voice like my other microphones do, but like I said, something is wrong with the mic port on my camera. So I am going to try to hopefully speak loudly enough that, you know, it can just kind of just hone in on my voice instead of everything that's going on in the background. I will try to edit the background noise out, and but just hang on, the videos after this would be better, because I don't know what happened, but just want to just say I'm sorry for the sound quality. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into what this video is about. This video this is going to be my first series of the Growing Food for Parrots series. Now this is for humans and for parrots. In this video I am going to talk about grow guides and things to look for peppers. My birds love peppers and tomatoes, so let's jump right into it. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. If this is not your first time, welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome. I hope that you do decide to join the family and stay by hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and ringing that bell. Now this is a very diverse channel. You're either here on this video for two reasons: gardening or parrots. I do talk about all types of things on this channel. It is a very diverse channel, as I said. Make sure that you do turn on the notification bell, so if you are here for the gardening videos or if you are here for the parrot videos, you will not miss when I post those types of videos. So make sure you definitely turn on that notification bell so you won't miss that video. And now I do want to go ahead and put this out here in the beginning of the video. Even though majority of this video is going to be a grow guide for tomatoes, because peppers don't need as much as tomatoes need. So that's really easy to get through the pepper side. Majority of it's going to be talking about tomatoes. Tomatoes do need to be given to your parrots in moderation. My parrots love tomatoes, but they get tomatoes maybe once a week, if that. They don't get tomatoes very often. So that is because tomatoes are extremely acidic. They can actually cause ulcers if you give them to your parrots too much. Also, with growing your own tomatoes, make sure that you take all the leaves off of the tomatoes. Sometimes, you know, you may have a habit of leaving like the little leaves on the top of the tomatoes, but the tomato plant, the leaves and the vines of the tomato plants, they are toxic to parrots. They are in the nightshade family, and they can actually poison and kill your parrot. Again, even though this video is going to mainly focus on growing tomatoes, you still need to give those tomatoes, this is just a treat for you. You just need to give those tomatoes to your parrots in moderation, because you do not want them to get ulcers. You do not want them definitely to be poisoned by the tomato leaves or vines. So with that being said, peppers are really easy to grow. We're just going to talk about those first, because my parrots love peppers. I'm pretty sure your parrots do too, but parrots just love peppers. They are really easy to grow. The peppers are one of those plants that you just set it and forget it. As long as you need to have some good, well-drained organic soil. Provide them with nice fertilizer. With the fertilizer, you do need to start them off with, what I do is, in my plant hole, I put nitrogen in the hole by putting a little bit of cow manure in the planting hole. I also put a little bit of Epsom salt, and that gives it that is magnesium sulfate. And I also put some cottonseed meal inside of the plant hole as well. So you actually can have your soil tested from the extension office, and that will tell you if your soil needs anything else. You can either put rock phosphate or bone meal, and that will give it a little bit of slow release potassium, slow release phosphorus. And what phosphorus does, that helps the blooms come out. So sometimes when people plant things. They throw a bunch of Miracle Grow. Now I'm not down in Miracle Grow. I love Miracle Grow's organic line. But as far as their like the shake and feed, it is a high nitrogen fertilizer, and so what will end up happening is you'll end up having a bunch of pepper plants with a bunch of leaves, or a bunch of tomato plants with a bunch of leaves and no fruit. So you started out with some nitrogen, and you put some rock phosphate or either some bone meal to put the phosphorus in there, let the roots soak it up, and then you'll get a nice full plush plant, and as well as you'll have a lot of blooms, and blooms mean fruit. Peppers are self-fertilizing, so you don't have to cross-pollinate like you would have to do cucumbers or squash or anything like that, cucurbits and things of that sort. It will pollinate. The flowers on the pepper plants have both male and female parts, so as long as you the wind goes by, or if you can shake the plant or use the electric toothbrush or just let the bees do their thing, as long as that pollen gets knocked off to the male from the female part of the flower to the male part of the flower, then it's fine. So you don't have to worry about cross-pollinating, having two different type of having a male flower and a female flower. With pepper plants, they have both male and female flowers. So that's pretty much it for pepper plants. They're really easy to grow. I'm telling you that they're really easy to grow. Now with tomato plants, we're going to talk about tomatoes. Again, this basically tomatoes are for you, mostly for you, but you can feed some to your pears in moderation. We're just going to tell, I don't have any notes, so I'm just trying to go off my head. I should really do notes. But so first we're going to talk about what to look for when you go to the garden center and you get tomato plants. You want to get tomato plants that are a really nice green color, like these right here. You want to get some that are a really nice green color. So what you don't want to see is, you don't want to see plants like this. You don't want to see plants with a lot of, if my camera will focus on it, a lot of yellow leaves with those purple stems. And also on some of the plants, you can see, with this plant, you can also see that the leaves are yellow with brown spots, and that lets you know that it has some type of disease. Even this leaf here, as you can see, this leaf here has those brown rings on the leaves. That lets you know that it has a disease. So you definitely don't want to get those plants that have those yellow leaves and those brown spots on the leaves, because there are diseases, and they let you know that the plant isn't as healthy, or sometimes it may not be a disease, sometimes it may be just that plant needs nutrients. So you do definitely want to give your plant the best start. So just be very picky. Like sometimes my husband would get things from the I would tell him, like, bring some tomatoes or bring some somethings, and he'll go get it. I'm looking at it like, why did you pick this plant? Why did you pick this plant? He's like, it was on clearance. Yeah, it was on clearance because it's on the brink of death. But a lot of things that, with me being an experienced gardener, even with things like that, I know how to pick the leaves off. I know how to treat it to where, but to save yourself some time, to save yourself some money, and to give your plant a really good start, you can bring it back. If you do buy some clearance plants, there are things that you can do to nourish it back to health. But just in the beginning, just to save yourself some time, just get the healthiest plants that you see. I'll give you a demonstration on how to plant them in a second. What I want to do is I want to talk to you about companion planting when it comes to tomatoes. Now, there are a lot of things that work hand in hand with companion planting. What companion planting is, it's a way to organically garden where you plant several plants, like at least 2 or more plants together, and they help each other out. Like with tomatoes, you have tomato and basil are really, really good plants to grow together. Not only does basil help the tomato plants to taste better, like they have just a better taste when you grow basil next to tomatoes. It also warns off the smell of the basil, and you know, basil is very aromatic. It has a very strong smell to it, and so with the smell of the basil being around the tomato plants, it actually wards off the tomato hornworm. that you will look online. There are places online that says, you know, scientifically it has not been proven, but sometimes gardening goes a little bit further than science goes. So every single year when I first started gardening, I would have tomato hornworms just eat my plants up. But ever since I've been planting basil with my tomatoes have tasted better, and my tomatoes have actually not had the hornworm. I do deal with the cabbage looper more towards the fall. The cabbage looper will eat, you know, my tomato plants or whatever, but they're the smaller worms. If you don't know what a tomato hornworm is, I will put a picture of. Now, this is a little ugly worm. I'm going to tell you, the little ugly, scary looking worm. And if you don't want to see this worm, if insects or whatever give you the heebie-jeebies, just skip to this time and you won't see the picture of the worm. But this is the you have been warned. I'm gonna give you time to go in and skip. All right, I think they're gone. But this is the tomato hornworm right here, and this hornworm can decimate a tomato plant overnight. It not only eats your tomato plants, it also eats your tomato fruit. And one of them, and they get huge and they hide very well, and you usually don't notice you have them until it's too late. I do have a video on tomato hornworms. I will do a video on tomato pests later. I don't want this one to be too long. I don't want to wear you out. There's a flower that goes really well with tomatoes is going to be marigolds. Marigolds pretty much goes well with anything. What marigolds do is they actually work under the soil. Now, tomatoes, we're going to talk about advantageous roots in a minute when I show you how to plant them. Tomatoes have what you call advantageous roots. They have a very strong root system, a very long root system. You have these soil dwelling organisms that can actually attack the roots of your tomato plants and eat the roots and kill the roots. But what marigolds do, the marigold roots release a chemical in the soil that wards off those nematodes to keep them from attacking your tomato root. A lot of times people will grow tomatoes and they will have problems and the tomato plants will just be dying. There's nothing wrong above ground. It's something going on under the ground. It's nematodes eating those roots. So not only with tomatoes, but I grow my marigolds next to everything because any root is subject to be attacked. Those are the main two things that I grow next to my tomato plants, basil and marigolds, but there is a whole slew of things that you can grow next to your tomato plants that will help out your tomato plants, or your tomato plants will help out those plants. I don't know how I forgot about it, but borage is another one that I always plant next to my tomato plants. It actually helps to repel pests off your tomato plants. It repels the tomato hornworm, and it also attracts a lot of pollinators. Bees are all over it. It's usually a blue color, but they do have white borage as well, but I mostly plant the blue borage. And when I say bees love it, bees love it. So it has a dual purpose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a separate video on tomato companion plants, because there's about 12 different things, 12 or more things that you can plant next to tomato plants, and that work together, work to help each other out. So I will be doing that video probably after this one. I will do a tomato companion planting video, and I will also put a link in the description box below to let you know some things that you can plant next to tomatoes. But these are just the main 3 that I plant next to my tomato plants. So now let's just jump into the planting hole. So do I want to demonstrate? I might as well demonstrate this to you guys. I think it'll make more sense if I demonstrate it to you. So let me go out here and let me actually show and tell instead of just telling. So let's do that. Another thing that I forgot to mention is when you are picking out your tomato plants, make sure you look for if your tomato plant is indeterminate or determinate. And the difference is indeterminate is a plant that is just going to continue to produce all season long, just over and over and over again. And a determinate plant like your Roma tomatoes, they all usually produce all at once. So you have like a surplus of tomatoes. I prefer prefer the indeterminate kind because, like I said, they just keep going and going and going. But the determinate kind, they're more like your canning tomatoes. They will pretty much produce over a short period of time, and then they're one and done. So you want to definitely look for that. It will usually have determinate or indeterminate on the tag here. The reason I chose this particular tomato here is because I love cherries, but you know, like I said, I want to do some canning with some pasta and some pasta sauce and salsa this year. I want to do a lot more canning with that. And this tomato here, it is disease resistant. So if you look at the tags on them or the little paper that they have at the little, it has information on it, so make sure you read that information and you can see the plus and the minuses of that plant. So this plant here is disease resistant, so it's less likely to get like the spotted wilt and the blight as quickly as a lot less quickly than others if it gets it at all. So this is my first time growing this particular plant here. So make sure you read those tags and decide if you want indeterminate, if you want it to produce over a long period of time, or if you want determinate where it produces all together. So I just want to add that in. So now let's jump into what I use in my planting holes. Come here, KK. The first thing that I put in my planting hole is any plants that I plant, I always have my black cow manure. It is a very minimum type fertilizer. It does great. It releases nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in very small amounts. As you can see, it's just 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. So I'll put that in all of my holes. I also use this, like I told you, I don't completely not Miracle Grow. I do like their organic Nature's Care line. So I put this in the garden soil and I mix it in with my native soil that I have in my garden already. And the reason I do that is last season I did have I think I had broccoli growing right here last season, so I know that my soil has lost some nutrients. So what I do is I put this Nature's Care organic gardening soil. It is relisted. You know, I'm real big on relisting. It is relisted, and I put that and I mix that into the gardening soil into the gardening hole with my native soil that I have here. Now, these two right here, this is not the brand that I usually use because they are not listed. I sent my husband to get some Epsom salt and to get some cottonseed meal, and this is what he came back with, which is fine. I didn't tell him to do organic, and I appreciate him doing it for me, but this is not the brand I use. The brand that I usually use is either Job's Organics or Garden Tone are the brands that I use, and I put pictures of them up here for you. But the magnesium sulfate, all that is Epsom salt. You can use regular Epsom salt from Walmart. I think you get like a 5-pound bag of Epsom salt for like less than $5 or right at $5. So you can use just regular Epsom salt, and then cottonseed meal. I love cottonseed meal. It is a slow release of nitrogen, and it also releases potassium and phosphorus as well. And it also releases phosphorus and potassium as well. Hey Caitlin, what you doing, girl? You all in my shot. Thank you. So yeah, and what I usually do with the bone meal, I usually get Joe's bone meal as well, or tomato tone. I get them mixed up sometimes, but I get the organic bone meal as well. But since this Nature's Care has bone meal in it, I don't have to worry about adding it because it does have actual bone meal already mixed in with it. What I would do is later on in the growth season, I would side dress it with bone meal, but I don't put it in a hole along with this because it already has it in there. That's one of the pluses to buy organic gardening soil. So I hope that you can get a good look at this planting hole here. And I know you're probably like, that is a big hole for a small plant. But that's what you want with tomato plants. And I'm about to show you why. Now, with tomato plants, you have what is called advantageous roots. So let me just lift one of these out of here. Let you see, get a little close up on it. Now with the hairs that you see on here, they help tomatoes produce what is called advantageous roots. What advantageous roots are, they are roots that grow other than the bottom of the plant. So each one of these hairs that you see here, if you bury it in the ground, when the soil and the water touches it, it turns into roots. So it creates a very long root system. So I know, especially when you're new to gardening, you get you see the dirt stopping here. You want to take it and just drop it in the ground up to here. No, what you want to do is you want to take the leaves off of the bottom of the plant, like so. And I can even pull this one off as well. So you can pull those bottom leaves off the plant, have it naked like that, and bury it deep in the ground. That hole's a little too big, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the organic garden soil, put it in the hole, mix it with the native soil here. I hope you can, oh, my camera's picking all this up. And we also have some cow manure that I'm going to drop in that hole. Some more organic garden soil. We're going to put some native soil in there. And we're going to take it and we're going to mix it all up real good. Going to put a little bit of the Epsom salt. Put a little bit of the cottonseed meal. Mix all that up together and just keep on going at it. I'm going to take and loosen up these roots here. Open it up, because right now they're kind of going in a circle. We want them to open up so they can grow down and out. So we're gonna open up those roots there. Put it down in that hole. And you put some cow manure first. And put some more cottonseed meal. You want those roots to be in direct contact so it can soak up the nutrients from these things. And we begin to fill the hole. It's not deep enough, so what I want to do is I want to pull it up a little bit, lift it up out of soil just a little. You have to be really careful not to break the plant. And I'm leaving all this in here so you can see trial and error is the name of the game. But yeah, it was a little too deep because those leaves, you don't want your top leaves touching the soil. I actually use weed fabric and I'll show you how to do that. But if your top leaves are touching the soil, it can actually cause germs. It can actually cause pathogens to jump up on your tomato plant. So what I did was I just pulled it up a little bit, so most of the stem is still buried, but those bottom leaves aren't as low as they were. So and a good thing to do is once you water them in when you plant them is I usually water them in with fish emulsion. The Alaskan fish emulsion is a good fertilizer for it. You don't have to do it when you first do it. Since I have the cottonseed meal, I'm not going to hit it with the fish emulsion just yet because I don't want it to have too much nitrogen. But when it starts growing, when it grows a little bit, I'm going to hit it with that fish emulsion. So if you're not putting all this in your planting hole, you can also put fish emulsion water them down with fish emulsion, water them in with fish emulsion. And a lot of people actually take fish heads and put fish heads in the hole. We'll talk about that in another video. So let's just show you how it actually looks, a row looks in my garden. So this is a row that I've already done a couple of days ago. You see you have the purple opal basil right there at the end. It's a smaller one, but that's purple opal basil right there at the end. You have your marigold tomato plant. Come down this way, you have your sweet basil right there. You have your marigold tomato plant. Come on down, you have your basil, marigold, tomato plant. So you have a purple opal basil there, marigold, tomato plant, and you have one final purple opal basil right there. The purple opal basils are the smaller ones. They will catch up. So yeah, so that's how I plant them. I plant basil in between each of my tomato plants to keep tomato hornworm down. I use 2 different types of, well, sometimes 3 different types of basil. I use sweet basil, purple opal basil, and Thai basil. So we're back to the one that we just planted here on camera. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you stuck to the end of this video, you are my new best friend. So definitely let me know in the comment section if you were able to stay to the end of the video. I know it's going to be a long one. And make sure you turn on the notification, because my next video is going to be tomato companion planting video. I believe there's about 12 to 15 different plants that go well with tomatoes. So if you just didn't want to do tomatoes and basil, and tomatoes and marigolds, there are different other options that you can do, but I definitely recommend that you use the basil, because that would keep that tomato hornworm off your tomato plants. It has been proven in my garden year after year. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you like this content, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like this content, give me a thumbs down. Either way, it helps with my channel. It helps me know what you guys prefer and to see and not to see. But as usual, I do appreciate you, and thank you for watching. Toodaloo. Bye bye.